We were going to start this episode with 45-minute discussion on the remix of Star Spangled Man with a Plan at the beginning of episode 2 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But, I already messed up the name of the show by saying Winter Soldier, messing up the mess up. So let's just talk about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I got the t-shirt and everything. Welcome back, George and Max, to the Rewatch.
So the Harvard Soda is a really great show. No, sorry. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think, is a really interesting project. It definitely feels like the Cap movies, very grounded in realism and the social issues outside of the action are highly relevant to discussions that I had in classes and just, in daily conversation, right? There's refugee crises, systemic racism, housing inequity, coming back from the blip is not really that applicable.
How much realism is in that? How much realism is there in coming back from being snapped away from existence for 5 years by a purple alien?
I think the closest comp I can think of is global pandemic and reemerging. The pandemic is the snap / Thanos, and then reemerging is everybody, hopefully in less than 5 years.
I'll give it to you. So yeah, this show, I think it's great to get Sam Wilson out in front of his own series.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's named The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Nailed the name. And you get to see Sam and Bucky, but this is really, for the most part, Sam Wilson's show, as he, comes to term with not only being back after being gone for 5 years, but he's also been given and given up Steve Rogers' shield. He has to come to terms with what it's like to carry the stars and stripes as a black man in America, which he talks about at length throughout the show. It's very, very powerful to see his journey in this show to, I think, prove to himself, because he knows he doesn't need to prove himself to others, but to be able to prove to himself that, you know what, I might not be a super soldier, I might not be worthy of wielding Mjolnir, but I am, as Dr. Erskine said in Captain America: The First Avenger, a good man. And we get to see Sam really take that to heart and prove himself worthy of wearing the Captain America mantle and carrying that shield. And then when you talk about the journey that Bucky Barnes goes on, with his journey from being the Winter Soldier and rehabilitating in Wakanda and seeing, how he has impacted the world, it's a tough ride for him. And the fact that they're both, sitting smiling on the boat at the end of the series, you got a lot going on in Phase 4 with the multiverse and mind control and, everything that's happened so far. Other dimensions in, deep in ancient Ta Lo in China. You've got Eternals who have been around for 7,000 years. All of this is going on, and Sam and Bucky are on the boat. It's, like you said, it's a profound and socially conscious television series over 6 episodes. But really, the fact that it gives these two characters, as I said about WandaVision, gives these two characters a chance to have their stories told at this point in the story of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, you know, is a credit to the storytelling abilities, Malcolm Spellman, the showrunner, but also the ability to deliver these stories through the lens of Sam and Bucky, as presented by Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. Who, by the way, Sebastian Stan, so much range from Bucky to the Winter Soldier to everything in between. He's great in the show. Anthony Mackie too.
Yeah, really fantastic performances all around, and sort of like what you were saying about the scope of the storyline. It is very ground level,
It's
but
low to
that
the
doesn't.
ground.
Yeah, but that is perfect for what this show needed to do. It needed to showcase that there are good and decent people in the world, that just want to do the right thing, and some of them have Falcon suits. But I think we should not leave this episode without talking about Isaiah Bradley,
I was just gonna say,
and
yeah.
devoting time to Isaiah Bradley, because he embodies that, right? Has never been Captain America, never been recognized as Captain America, but he was a super soldier. He was given the serum, and he became a super soldier for the United States military, as a
Fuck
black
Bucky
man.
Barnes.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, George, I want to hear your thoughts on Isaiah.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, having him serve as, I'll go so far as to say, a mentor figure for Sam in the back half of this series, and really the second and third acts of the overall arc of the 5.5 quasi hours it runs. You really get to see how Sam perceives his own potential future legacy as a foil to not only Steve Rogers, but to Isaiah Bradley, and what it would mean after all that Isaiah had been through for Sam to say, I am Captain America, and what that would mean for all people of color, all Black people in America, to see Sam Wilson, Black man from the South, military man, carrying the shield, wearing the stars and stripes. So I think Isaiah's legacy in the show is giving Sam a reference point for himself. They each see a lot of themselves in each other. Maybe not maybe not in the best light, but it's I'm almost at a loss for words for how great of a role Isaiah plays in this story, just as someone who Sam can see as a focal point and as a reference point for what his role in the world can be if he decides to pick up the mantle again.
And I'm really excited to see more of Sam's development, throughout the rest of this phase, because this was such a great arc over the course of what you said, 5.5, 6 hours of TV. It will be so fascinating to see where they take Sam, and whether that translates to him becoming more of the vocal and active leader that Steve Rogers was in the Avengers, or if it's leadership in some other way. I don't know what that would be, but I think that'll be really interesting, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So as we come to an end here on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, why don't we give it some rankings and ratings in the MCU?
Sure. So I'm gonna give it an 81 out of 100. I think this is definitely one of the projects that will go up each time I watch. It already jumped up 2 or 3 points or thereabouts from my last viewing, which was the episodic nature, or the weekly release of the episodes. And I have good. I think it'll get better. Yeah. So I will put it at 19 out of 32. It is low, admittedly, but I think again that also will raise it up in the rankings as I continue to watch. So that's I think that's indicative of how interesting a concept this show was.
Yeah. I really am excited to see what happens in Captain America 4, which has been announced and confirmed. Again, Malcolm Spellman is going to be playing a big role in that, and Anthony Mackie already confirmed to star. It's going to be a continuation of this storyline, whether you'll see Flag Smashers, maybe that movement is kind of done, played out, I think, in this series. Whether you'll see Zemo again, whether you'll see Sharon Carter, who we haven't even talked about. Bucky will probably be back. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this story is best binged as we did today, because it does feel like one long movie. Not even like a trilogy of movies like people were expecting it would be. It feels like one long movie. And I wish there were some way that, and there probably is, but to edit this all together and watch it all in sequence without even having to spend 5 seconds clicking to the next episode. So I am going to give it an 83 out of 100, right around where Max is, a couple spots higher, just because, binging it raised it up a couple of points for me today. Not sure where it'll go from there. Could go up, could go down. I really like the story. I like John Walker as a character. He's really complex. He serves as, again, a good foil for Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. He's a super soldier now. He's U.S. agent. That's going to be really interesting to watch, whether it plays out in his own storyline in the MCU or with Sam and Bucky. And as for my ranking in the MCU, I'm going to throw it an even 20th. So it's towards the top of that bottom half. But still, again, don't look at that number. Look at the 83 out of 100. All right, so that should just about wrap up this episode of The Rewatch. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about the God of Mischief himself escaped from Avengers Endgame, the Battle of New York. Boy, I'm glad you guys have stuck around with us this long. Have a good night, everyone.